Welcome back to the Cowpart Bros podcast. We are fresh off the first segment where we discussed the fallout from Novak Djokovic being disqualified from participating in the Australian Open. In this segment, we're going to be talking about one Joe Rogan and him getting himself into hot water yet again. I am referencing an article from CNBC. Megan Sauer is the journalist on that particular article. 270 health experts to Spotify. Joe Rogan's COVID misinformation is a sociological issue of devastating proportions. In an open letter addressed to Spotify, 270 science and health professionals said that the podcast was broadcasting information, particularly regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. The letter then asked Spotify to take action against mass misinformation events on its platform. Notably, it didn't recommend any specific actions for Spotify to take. The letter specifically highlighted a December 31st episode featuring Dr. Robert Malone, a virologist who was recently banned from Twitter for spreading vaccine falsehoods. On the episode, Malone told host Joe Rogan that there had been an explosion on vaccine-associated deaths and that hospitals are financially incentivized to label COVID as a cause of patient deaths. He also said leaders are free-floating anxiety to hypnotize the public. Now, it is worth noting, all three theories were quickly identified as false, as recorded by the AP News and nonprofit fact-checking outlet PolitiFact. YouTube also removed the video of that Joe Rogan interview with Robert Malone as soon as after it was posted, citing it violated community guidelines. So I'm looking at some of these names on this letter, and I'm looking at really at Joe Rogan's body of work in his endeavor to undermine effectively adoption of the COVID-19 vaccine. And this is not just one interview for me. It is a long tail of fuckery, okay? And I mean, the article even talks about this, Jason. It talks about him previously discouraging young people from getting vaccinated. It talks about promoting ivermectin to treat the virus, which people typically use for like pets as a COVID treatment, so on and so forth, ad nauseum. So, what are your thoughts on effectively, number one, Joe Rogan effectively spouting anti-vaccine propaganda, and also the fact that several health experts were so fed up that they decided to actually put their name on wax, saying, this is a problem. You are part of the problem. What are your thoughts on that?
So, to number one, when it comes to Joe Rogan, as we've highlighted on the show before, and also in this article, that per episode he gets about 10 or 11 million listens or downloads per episode. So, kudos to him for that. Number one. But with that being said, and I'll put some of this on us too, that also gives him a responsibility to obviously run your own show. It's your show, run it how you want. But it also gives him a responsibility to, if you're going to put out information out there that's not, well, whether it's opinion based or factual or not, you have a responsibility to make sure what you're putting out there is true, accurate. And some of this, obviously, Joe Rogan, I'm guessing he brought this doctor on here because he's a doctor. Now, maybe I should be air quoting that because he clearly went to school to be a doctor, a virologist, or whatever you want to call it. But obviously, he brought this doctor on there because I'm sure he supports Joe Rogan's opinions. That's why he's on the show. But also, as you mentioned in here, that the same doctor was also banned from Twitter for spreading misinformation. And also mentioned that YouTube removed one of the Joe Rogan videos from their site for the same thing. So that's my thought on number one, that he has a responsibility to put accurate information out there, or at least things that he believes are accurate. And obviously, there's no way he could have thought this was accurate, knowing this guy had issues with it, correct information before. Number two, regarding the 270 health experts that kind of put their opinion out there, and there's a letter actually online, which I can read some of it later. But to me, that's what made it really news. I think, like you said, Joe Rogan has the reputation for putting stuff out there and maybe misinformation out there already. But the fact that 270 health experts, like you said, you always say, put it on wax in a letter and actually send it to Spotify. That's what made this news, and that's what made it stand out to me. It's like, okay. But number three to that, I want to say that too, that although the initial responsibility falls on Joe Rogan because it's his show, he has creative control of his show. He can do it, basically do what he wants with it, and that is what it is. But as the hosts, as the show's host platform, Spotify in this case, they have an additional responsibility to somewhat be aware of what your shows are doing. Obviously, they're probably going to monitor every single show. But since Joe Rogan's show is recognized, as mentioned in this article, that he's basically the number one podcast in the world, you would think they'd be keeping an eye on what he's saying on the show because obviously whatever he says, stuff like this is going to be put there, it's going to be in the public eye. Now, I found other articles, including on Fox News, and I have an article information about that too, basically stating that Spotify, in other situations, whether it's Joe Rogan's show and others, they've actually removed episodes and content from their platform because of reasons just like this. But seemingly, as of right now, they haven't done anything or said anything. According to an article I found from yesterday, Spotify has yet to say anything about this. So again, I'm going to read some of the letter that the health experts actually signed before the segment ends. But what are your thoughts about that stuff?
Well, Jason, thank you for sharing your thoughts on item number one. Here's the thing. What's unfortunate is that when Joe Rogan, or anybody else for that matter, we could have someone far less popular, either in the podcast side of town or UFC, what have you. Putting that information out there, once it's out there, it's out there. And misinformation is incredibly nefarious and incredibly difficult to counteract because a lot of times people are out here looking for this information because it already confirms a place they already are at. The average listener usually is not looking to be convinced. They are already convinced and they are looking to be convinced more. How many political arguments, or hell, we could use it something far less important, sports arguments, have we had on this here internet where people are only going to seek out information that effectively validates where they already are? And so the Joe Rogan experiment or experience, which is an experiment, is effectively a social experiment in that.
But that's also, hang on. So that's also where I say there's responsibility there. But again, like I said, I put that on us too. I agree with you. People tend to seek out information that validates their opinion. However, when you're in the media, you can still be that case, but you also have responsibility to look out for information that could contradict what you think as well. And that's where I like to think that, at least for our show purposes, we can do that. Now, but that being said, like you said, we are still human. But still, since we have a responsibility to our listeners, since we, like we said before, we are in some degree part of the media, just like Joe Rogan to a lesser degree for now, we have the responsibility to make sure what we're putting out there from both sides is accurate, or at least expressing those different opinions and putting it out there. So, like you said, people who maybe listeners may already be convinced, but maybe some stuff we might say that could contradict what they think are planting seeds of thought out there for people. And that's where I hope that we can actually do. And hopefully we do that for people. If you feel the opposite, let us know. cowpopbros@gmail.com. But yeah, sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to throw that in there.
No, here's the thing. This is not the first time, by the way, that some group of individuals or organizations have requested Joe Rogan have to walk some shit back. Joe Rogan actually had to backtrack, I believe, like a year ago, or on some sort of content that he put out there because he was alleging that something was happening, and in fact, it wasn't. So, but those are rare. Those are rare scenarios for anybody, um, or any organization, because 9 times out of 10, when organizations or individuals are effectively trying to lobby for outsiders to feel a certain way, all of their eggs are in the basket of, we're trying to get you to do X. We are not trying to put it in reverse and have a nuanced understanding of anything. So those are my immediate thoughts. Kudos to the 270 health experts that were willing to put their name out there, because in the year of our Lord 2022, you can bet your ass that they're probably being harassed online as we speak. Like, think about some of these Pizzagate crazies that are. Oh, you don't know about that?
Did you say Pizzagate?
I did.
Okay.
Um, that effectively they hear something on the interwebs, and then they are so devout they'll literally drive cross country over something that isn't real. So, um, yeah, I'm going to say kudos to the 270 health experts that were willing to put their actual government name on this damn thing and say, hey, what you're doing is not okay. Like, they didn't say that you, and even say you had to get the vaccine. I'm saying, don't be making shit up. I think that was the core issue. Um, I mean, I've heard this. I've heard this shit on Facebook before. There's been an explosion of vaccine-associated deaths. Hospitals are financially incentivized to label COVID as a cause of patient deaths, and that leaders are using free-floating anxiety to hypnotize the public. What possible financial incentive would a hospital have to do that?
Who knows?
My point is, the shit's here, and yeah, unless someone's got some receipts on that, you shouldn't be putting that out there. And as far as free floating anxiety goes, every politician on planet Earth wants this to go away.
Wants what to go
If
away?
it's specifically COVID.
Okay. Well, that's everybody in the world, I'm sure. So
Yeah, but that's the allegation from this Dr. Robert Malone. So, and here's the thing. You gotta be really out of pocket to get banned from Twitter. Former president might know a thing or two about that,
I was just about to
but
mention that.
that's
Yeah,
how hard it is to get fucking banned. That's how hard it is to get fucking banned.
that is the measure. If you're getting banned from Twitter, you're on the same platform or same level as Donald Trump because you both did the same
Like,
thing.
that's how hard it is. You can say and do damn near almost anything on Twitter. So that's where we are. You know, and yeah, Joe Rogan has a responsibility, but ultimately, the people that listen to Joe Rogan also have a responsibility. At least be receptive to the truth. At least think for 2 seconds, is what I'm being presented viable? Am I seeking out um, objective evidence to what I'm being presented? Or am I just looking to continue to listen to shit because guess what? That's what I already believe. That's what any citizen has to do. So that's where I'm at.
So real quick, I'm gonna finish up. I want to read some of this open letter, and it's available online, folks. You can definitely find it. Search for it. It's there. And actually, a link to it's within the article that we referenced before, or Terrence referenced, which is on CNBC. But it's a very quick letter. It's only 5 paragraphs, so you can get through it pretty quickly. But if you're interested, check it out. I won't necessarily read all of it, but I definitely want to hit some of it. On December 31st, 2021, Joe Rogan Experience, a Spotify exclusive podcast, uploaded a highly controversial episode featuring guest Dr. Robert Malone, episode number 1757. The episode has been criticized for promoting baseless conspiracy theories, and the JRE, Joe Rogan Experience, has a concerning history of broadcasting misinformation, particularly regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Skipping down to the next paragraph. We are a coalition of scientists, medical professionals, professors, and science communicators spanning a wide range of fields such as microbiology, immunology, epidemiology, and neuroscience. And we are calling on Spotify to take action against the mass information events which continue to occur on its platform. With an estimated 11 million listeners per episode, JRE is the world's largest podcast and has tremendous influence. Though Spotify has a responsibility to mitigate the spread of misinformation on its platform, the company presently has no misinformation policy. All right. Uh, that's kind of the main point of it, why they said all this stuff. They do bring up some data points, like you mentioned before, about the average age of GRE listeners is 24 years old. And according to the data from the Washington State, unvaccinated 12 to 34-year-olds are 12 times more likely to be hospitalized with COVID than those who are fully vaccinated. Um, but that's the other thing we kind of put out there. Many episodes ago, we talked about back when Donald Trump was actually banned from Facebook or whatever, that at the time, Facebook, Instagram, and all stuff like that didn't have any policies when it comes to like suspensions and stuff like that. And people were calling that they need to have some policies in place for it. That's basically what the doctors are kind of calling to put out there, some type of policies in place for any misinformation that's put out there on their platform. And I don't think anybody can knock that. I mean, you and I, this show, one of the platforms that we're on is Spotify. So, you know, and I don't think this would be a detriment to our show, but I'll be just fine with them putting policies out there like that. And again, I don't think anybody listened to our show. I don't think you or anybody who wrote this letter or signed the letter would, obviously be against the same thing. So, but again, when I was looking today for more information to see if anything has come of this, because that article we referenced earlier was from the 14th. So I was looking up anything that might have come out since then. And the only articles I found as late as a day ago were saying that Spotify is still mum or hadn't said anything about this stuff, which I find pretty interesting that they haven't, given that this is all the media off of the show that's on their platform. So you think they'd be saying something. Now maybe there's things in the works that they don't want to put out in the media yet, but given that this all came out almost a week ago, you would think that hey, they'll at least say something, some type of form, public relations letter that hey, we're aware of the situation, we apologize for any misinformation, and going forward, the company's looking to best handle situations like this or something. They didn't put none of that out yet. So maybe at some point in the next week or so, next few days, the PR team will get on that. But I found it interesting that they haven't done that yet, knowing that this is out in the news about their, like I said, the number one podcast in the world. So obviously the number one podcast on their platform. So as one show on the platform, I like to say, hopefully they step up soon to do that. That's all I got for this topic.
Yes, sir. All right. That concludes our segment on the Joe Rogan experiment. Experimental listening, right?
Joker number 2 for this episode.
Right. All right. That concludes segment number 2. Coming up next, we'll be talking about, sadly, a Donald Trump rally, potentially giving a preview to 2024. Coming up next on Cal Park Bros.